Hello everyone, Connor Whitmore here again with another video for you on the Nawtystep channel. And it's time to give some love to drum and bass music. This is, I think, the fourth 10-track genre guide on the channel, and mile and away the most requested when it comes to me asking you guys at the end of each of those videos which genre or subgenre you would want to see me do next, and so here we are. Knowing also it's a predominantly American audience on the channel, and a young one at that, I think it's really great to see people wanting to understand and appreciate the genre more. Where this particular video differs, of course, is that D&B, as a whole genre, is far, far bigger than all of the subgenres I've covered so far, from mid-tempo to Mumbacore, Dark House. I think those are the ones I've talked about before. There are 8 to 10 solid subgenres of D&B itself, and so to narrow all of that down, decades of music, millions of songs, to just 10 is obviously far, far more difficult. So this one is going to be much more like a recommendation sort of guide, my favourites over the years. As I mentioned just earlier, 8 to 10 solid subgenres in D&B, and I've tried to cover as many of them as I can here. Also, because the audience of this channel is quite dubstep heavy, I've dropped in a couple of producers here that are familiar to fans of that music who have made D&B tunes in the past. There are tens, probably hundreds of D&B legends I've left out here, but again, I'm not giving a definitive guide. This is a way of getting those who subscribe to the channel into D&B music more. Additionally, because it is so voluminous and wide-reaching as a genre, I'm going to recommend 5 labels at the end that I think are paramount for getting into D&B as well. Just before we get going, as I mentioned, I've done other 10-track genre guides before. I shall link them just here. But yeah, 10 tunes here, no particular order, again not definitive, but a nice range and a good segue for all you dubstep lovers out there. A few points for each tune on why they work, a playlist of them in the description. Let's go! And first up, I'm going to be talking about the most joyous and outright fun D&B song I think I've ever heard. Yep, I just love the bubbly and ebullient approach of this song. One that I heard actually not too long ago, but is really quite old in the discography of this band, and that is Girl in the Fire by Pendulum. Now, you know me guys, I like using the word infectious to describe music, and this song would have to be the epitome of that for me. I think if a song could smile, then it would be this one. It just has such a nice groove and feeling and emotion running through it. Also in thanks to those vocal snippets that we get in the drops, which are just so fruity, bubbly, and full of life. It's just got a really nice, warm, soothing feel running through it from pretty much beginning to end. I like the enchanting feel of it as well, with us getting the guitar and the percussion mixed together, the transitioning between all of it. It's just quite hazy and effortless as a construction, as a piece of art. Hypnotic and trance-inducing as well. I could, of course, gone for other D&B classics with Pendulum like Tarantula, Propane Nightmares, etc. But weirdly, I think this one has had the biggest effect on me, can't lie. Next up, now D&B can also, of course, be properly mellow, somber, emotional, music that is quite reflective and makes you think about things and put everything in perspective, if you will, and a perfect song for that is Ironheart by Netsky. The melodic progression running through this song just gets you right here. I think it may take a couple of listens to really get into it, but when it does, when you fully click with it, I think there is little stopping it in being one of the most powerfully moving songs you've heard, not only in D&B, but in bass music overall. Really heart-rending, melancholic quality to it, almost angelic and euphoric in a sad way. That is the best way I can put it. Outright beautiful, and the one D&B song that I've always got sad chills from, and has continually breathed a kind of hollow life into me. Gloomy, but true. Following on from there, we have the first dubstep reference here, and easily one of the best dips into D&B I've heard from a predominantly dubstep musician. Dodge and Fusky with Destination Terror. I love this one most for the transitioning from section to section, completely seamless, gliding along smoothly, pretty much from start to finish, beginning to end, streamlined if you will, kinda like a plane, just moving on through the air, in the air, right up above, through the clouds, yep, just gliding along. It reminds me of that. Also, the vocal sampling, the overall theme of it, everything tying together so well. Yeah, it all just clicks really well. Very packaged and contained and compact. The drops as well, I must mention, have such an irresistible groove and allure to them. And it has to be one of my top picks from them ever, which is mad considering the amount of dubstep I've loved from them before this song came out. But yeah, it is a top tune. Then we have the first D&B song that I properly got into. The first song that properly hooked me in from the genre, with its story, how it develops, how it progresses over its course. And that song is the Shock 1 remix of Die For You by Cutline. An amazing energy surging through this tune, really fervent bass from beginning to end throughout. It's alive, electric, vibrant, thick, colossal. It's kind of like a beast picking you up and putting you under its arm and charging and motoring forward, mowing down everything that gets in its way. Yep, that is what it reminds me of. The blend between instrumental and vocal is brilliant. The chemistry there, and also between all the different sections, it's very directionally aware as well. And I remember being so happy having heard this song all those years ago when I was at school, and we had a show and tell of music in my school, and each person, one person a week, had to come through with a song of their choice and show it to their form, and this was my one. And I remember the reaction on my teacher's face. It was hilarious, but yeah, so surprised, but I was just there grooving along and everyone else was loving it. Good times. After that, a full-on legendary tune, and probably the song that I share with the biggest amount of friends that I have from school. Yeah, talked about the Shock 1 remix just before. I showed that to a few, but this one was renowned, universal. Everyone knew it, and it was a great way of bringing people together through D&B, through bass music. Chasing status with no problem. At the ripe old age of 16, 17, nothing beat hearing this song live out anywhere, wherever it was in the late teen age, and everyone singing along to the lyrics of it. Yeah, whether it was a festival, out at a club, wherever, it just never got old, and it was such a good way of bringing together all the people that I loved at that point. There is a song on the album that this song is from, called Hype is Hype, but I think this one gets you hyped way more. It's pure energy, and as a combination of elements, all the sections and sequences working together, it is just so hypey. The memories I have attached to this song and the way it brings me back to a certain very enjoyable point in my life is almost unparalleled with any song I've heard ever, not only in D&B, so yeah. I'm not sure it would have the same impact today, but give it a try. Let me know what you think of it, and I hope you can get as much enjoyment from it as I have over the years. Moving on from there, another one of the more somber and emotionally driven tunes here. Reflective, very heartfelt, and another that I think could make you cry. It's almost done that for me. If You Cry by Sport. Something about the way this one folds in and out over and over, wave after wave, rising and dipping, overflowing, but never overwhelming or overbearing. It's very manageable and welcomed, if you will. Another where the relationship between vocal and instrumental is perfect, I would have to say. It's heavenly, stunning stuff. Nowhere near as many bangers from John Gooch as Spore in comparison to Feed Me, but I do think that the Spore alias deserves much more attention and acclaim, and this song is a big reason for that for me. Okay, onwards and upwards. Sometimes you want your D&B to have more of a pull and swagger to it, to be a bit more outright dark and grim, if you will, and a perfect song for that, Noisia and the Upbeats with Dust Up. Yeah, I touched on it just now, but this is probably the most outright dark and evil number here. Underlying, earthy, gravelly, a kind of underground feel to it, daunting and impending, always got this sense of doom kind of looming above, especially in the opening part of it. Sets a scene really well, builds tension and swings you and kind of catapults you this way and that. A mammoth tune. Undeniably one of my favourite Noisia tunes ever, which I think is saying something considering the amount of amazing material we've got from them over time. Maybe even my favourite D&B tune from them ever, which again is saying something gripping, statement making, but still in quite a subtle way. So yeah, it's just so good. Next up, quite simply the best example of predominantly dubstep producers doing D&B and doing it right, the remix of Holding On by Skrillex and Nero. I have to say, as wild and manic I've heard D&B so far, yet so controlled in the execution as well. Think about the amount they bring together here in its construction. It's just so unbelievably off the wall, off the chain. So much to take in as the listener, but you can hear all of it so clearly and cleanly. Really epic as well with the vocal from I See Monsters. The general flow across every sequence is incredible. So many spots you want it to hit, and it does. And I think if you want to hear more from me on why I love this remix so much, look at my top remixes of the decade video, which I put out a couple of weeks ago. Yep, I go full in on that video with how much I love it, because trust me, I do love it. Penultimately here, a much more chilled number, as liquid D&B is a very important subgenre. We can't just go all in with the heaviness, and I'm aware there are people here also who like the more uplifting, light and bright side of EDM music. And my favourite from that subgenre, liquid D&B, is Low Light by AK and Babel. Very soothing, very calming, yet also very genuine in its feel, and a clear personality and character to it as well. Just really easily lures you into the whole feeling and emotion and good warmth of it. Telling a tale through the musicality and revealing more of itself as it goes on. Just really pretty and lovely. Above all else, however, another way of realising drum and bass music, away from the darkness and heaviness as I mentioned, and I cannot stress enough how important the liquid D&B subgenre is, so check it out. And finally, another properly lively electric remix here, another artist lying in that crossover from D&B to dubstep, which I think this duo has operated in for pretty much their whole discography and career, and that is the remix of Flesh and Bone by Delta Heavy. Again, one of those where you hear it and you're just like, it's a bit mad. Very dark and heavy, but also very colourful and vibrant, off the wall. I love how the vocal and instrumental play off one another. Really good as a kind of dynamic going on there. Pretty mind-melting as well when it comes to the main sounds in the drops, which isn't usual for a D&B tune, but I suppose that's what you get when you have a producer or duo, in this case, who are, as I mentioned, operating in that middle point between D&B and dubstep. Another that I heard very early on in my appreciation of bass music overall and generally, and a tune I fell in love with pretty quickly, and so a big nostalgia attached to it for yours truly, and so a good note to end on, I think. And now gonna give you those quick label recommendations. First off, 1985 music, label of Alex Perez. Some slower tempo stuff here as well, but mostly very clean cut, low-key D&B bangers. Critical music, label of Kazra, home to some of the best in D&B at the moment, if not the best. I know it is the elite for many an appreciator of D&B today. Always been ahead of the curve ideas-wise in my opinion. Neo Signal, run by Face and Misanthrop, who you may remember from my Albums of the Year and Albums of the Decade videos. They've got a remix compilation series going on at the moment, so yeah, check them out. Eat Brain, led by Teddy Killers, for the grungier side of D&B, and I think this label may be the best gateway for dubstep fans or anyone who likes bass music that is a bit more savage. Ram Records, for many the GOAT when it comes to D&B and labels, and I think that would be hard to dispute considering how long they've been around. Owned by the legend Andy C, and I think here you'll get the most outright classic approach to D&B production. And a little extra at the end here, because I feel like it. Vision Recordings, one of 3 labels run by Noisia, and it's just great to know that it's still going to be going once the trio have disbanded at the end of this year. So much amazing music on that label, and there are the 2 to be fair, but for D&B, I would really, really recommend checking that out. But there we have it, guys, the latest 10-track genre guide on the channel, this time for drum and bass music. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. But what are some drum and bass songs that you would recommend for others who may not be as into it? Don't forget, the comment section is almost as good as the video itself when it comes to recommending stuff for people. So yeah, drop your favourite D&B tunes in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, hit the notification bell along the way. If you haven't yet, my social media accounts are linked in the description box down below. And if you are yet to watch the other 10-track genre guides on the channel, they again shall be linked just here. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know, guys, so be sure, as always, to keep it naughty and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. D&B, check it out. Peace out.